Greetings, colleagues. This is Mark Kenoyer from the University of Wisconsin-Madison, and I'm happy to be here today to talk to you about the continuity and change in diagnostic Indus technologies, evidence from Harappa, Pakistan. I'm thankful to the organizers of the conference and the sponsors, and I also want to especially thank the Department of Archaeology and Museums, Government of Pakistan, and the Archaeological Survey of India for allowing me to work on Indus sites in their countries. Also, thanks to the Harappa Archaeological Research Project for the many years of hard work from the team, and many colleagues and students who've shared their information with me. I also want to especially thank the funding agencies and particularly Harappa.com. The Harappa team is starting in 1986, included people from many different universities in the US as well as Pakistan. And many colleagues from around the world have been a part of this research. The site of Harappa itself is quite large, estimated to be around 150 hectares in area. This drawing that I did features the site as I think it looked during the period around 2000 to about 1900 BCE. And I won't go into the detail of the different sectors, but this is all presented in various publications that I've given. The chronology is also something that we've published extensively, and we'll be talking about the earliest phase, the Ravi, the Kotdijian, the Harappa, which is divided into 3 periods, and then the Late Harappan, which has 2 phases, the transitional and then the cemetery H period. Diagnostic technologies are those that have been used to help define and characterize different phases of the Indus tradition. And these technologies include a wide range of materials and techniques that were used to create hierarchies of materials that I argue can be linked to status and wealth. The Indus civilization at various periods, beginning from the Ravi phase, was a hierarchical society. It was not egalitarian. And there's clear evidence from that in the terms of the types of materials being used and the hierarchies of materials being used. Even though it was hierarchical, it was also integrated. So the same technologies used to differentiate people are also used to integrate people through shared styles and shared use of symbols. And this can be seen both in ceramics, in figurines, in seals, and a wide range of the techniques. Today, I'm going to focus on standardized bricks. I've talked about faience, stone bead making, copper metallurgy, and textiles, and these are longer presentations that are available online at harappa.com YouTube. But today I'm going to focus on standardized bricks, which in themselves are a very important diagnostic of what we consider to be Harappan culture. And I'm going to show that they actually begin during the Early Harappan period and continue into the Late Harappan period. I'll briefly talk about pottery and drainage as well, and wells, as well as pottery, and hopefully get through to the discussion of steatite seals. So beginning in the earliest phase at Harappa, during the Ravi phase, we have both hand-formed and possibly mold-made bricks, which range in 2 sizes, a small size and a large size, with ratios of approximately 1 to 2 to 4. This is the beginning of north-south, east-west architectural construction, and also the important ratios that we see later on. These types of bricks have not been documented from any other site, but I expect that they will be found at other sites in the Punjab and possibly other regions as people begin to get to these levels. During the Kotdiji phase, we can see a continuity of large and small-sized bricks. So small-sized bricks are used in houses, and the large-sized bricks, 10 by 20 by 40, are used in city walls. And this is an evidence for a street running north-south between 2 sets of houses. The interesting feature of this street, even though it appears to be in an area where very wealthy people lived, we found a piece of gold in the debris on the street. We found seals. We found weights. The street itself has no drain. So there's no pakka drain. There's no drainage area. The street was filled with garbage and green gunk, which is this flowing sewage. So clearly in this part of the city, no major drainage system had been built during this time period. And this dates to around 28 to 2600, probably later 2600 BCE, just before the Harappa period. We've done experimental work at Harappa to see how long it takes to make bricks, what sizes of bricks can be made, and I don't have time to go into this in detail, but this has helped us understand the construction of large city walls and the amount of labor involved in the production of this type of material. The beginning of fired bricks at Harappa is very distinctive because you can see the color of melted and broken fired bricks, a reddish color in the soil. So the Côte d'Ivoire phase has no evidence of the use of fired bricks, and it's only during the Harappa phase 3A that we start seeing fired bricks. And the earliest ones are 7.5 by 14 or 15 by 28 to even 29 centimeters long. And these are this ratio 1 to 2 to 4. But oversized, the bricks decrease until these are the middle period bricks, 3B and 3C. And then these are the bricks from the late Harappan period, period 5. And they measure 6 by 12 by 24 centimeters, which is much smaller, but still the same ratio. In terms of use of drains, we don't have drains in some areas of the city, even during 3A, during the Harappa phase. So this is an area excavated on Mound E with a large street running east-west and houses on both sides. There are sump pots on the street area, but there's no evidence for drains. Now, this area also shows the mud brick foundations that were used for later larger buildings that were built of fired brick. And those fired bricks were all stolen by the brick robbers. The use of bricks was very important for making wells. We do not have any evidence for early Harappan wells, and we don't know how they were made. But the Harappa period sees the beginning of wells made with diagnostic wedge-shaped bricks. And Harappans made these in large quantities with the same diameter. So all of these bricks for this well were marked with 2 lines on the outside indicating that they were for a well of a specific diameter. This one has an interior diameter of about 1.5 meters. And it was, we never got to the bottom of it, but all of the bricks on the outside had the same marks. Mohenjo-Daro has many more wells than Harappa, and every single neighborhood almost has a group of wells with a group of houses. These wells were very sturdy and continued to be functional even until later periods. At Harappa, we have evidence of the Harappan well being used even today by women in a village called Duddi, which is located just outside of Harappa's site. Not every sector of Harappa, even during the phase of fired brick use, had nice drains like you see at Mohenjo-Daro. This is an area, Trench 9, which shows the use of a latrine and a small drain going out to the street and a sump pot, but no city drain associated with it. So this is something that needs to be investigated in further research. Not all wells are round. Some of them have a people leaf shape. This is from Mohenjo-Daro, and also from near the Great Bath at Mohenjo-Daro, which is an oval-shaped well. They also had wells that were located on the streets, which were for public use and access by the general public. At Harappa, drainage, and at Mohenjo-Daro, drainage was based on gravity flow, and we see clear evidence of different elevations of the settlement based on correlation of stratigraphy. So water and sewage would flow down into the main city drains and then come out to the city wall. And this is an area where we see evidence for repeated drain modification as sediments within the city got higher and higher. They had to shift the drain up, and 3 times they shifted it here, and then eventually they had to shift it out through the gateway. So this is an example of a corbelled arch drain built of fired bricks for removing sewage from the city. This is a top view of that same area, showing the streets on both sides and then the drain in the middle, and the effective use of gravity to pull the material from the city and out into the fields. Large drains sometimes were used for a very long period of time. So this drain on the north part of Mound A-B started in 3A period and continued to be used all the way up until 3C period. So almost 700 years of use of this drain in this area before eventually somebody built in the final phases of 3C a large building that covered it. And this building has a veranda on one side with wooden posts and then a major wall which was robbed of its bricks that links to possibly another wall 50 meters away, which is near the Baba Nur Shah shrine of the saint at the northern part of Mound AB, which is here. And I'm talking about this because this structure shows the combination of wood and brick architecture, but it also shows the use of ring stones, which these are broken ring stones that were thrown in front of the doorway. The doorway is here, and the ring stones are here, that were used as stepping stones outside of the structure. So the ring stones were old and broken. They were reused to keep people from stepping in the mud. So ring stones were also incorporated into the combination wooden and brick architecture, and we were fortunate enough to be able to excavate 3 of these that were found eroding from the mound at the edge of that other side of what I think may be that large building. This area has clear evidence for the use of ring stones associated with period 3C at Harappa, which is the final phase of the Harappan occupation. It's not clear if these stones were originally stacked on top of each other, but they were actually laying on a floor that was very flat, and they were all at approximately the same level. A layer of rubble covered them, and this layer included a later building of a wall, which is from the cemetery H period. We were able to date charcoal associated with this. That dates this to around 1700. The bricks in that wall included cemetery H bricks, but also reused Harappa bricks. So it's very important to be able to measure and document brick sizes, and stratigraphically we can now clearly show changes in brick sizes over time, but a continuity in the use of ratios. And this is the final structure of the late Harappan that we were able to excavate, showing no use of brick rubble, but mainly complete bricks, all made during the late Harappan period. And it again dates to after 1700 BCE. Above that, we found evidence for historical period bricks, and there might have been Mauryan period bricks, but we haven't been able to differentiate them from later Gupta period. But Gupta period bricks were excavated by Sahni in the 1920s in this large area next to Baba Nur Shah, and many of them were carved, whether part of stupas or temples. I'm going to move quickly into the discussion of pottery. Pottery shows the continuity in the use of the same clays throughout the Harappan period, from the Ravi through the late Harappan. There are some minor changes in composition that Dr. Krishnan is studying, but overall it indicates that the same clays were used throughout the whole time period, which is not really surprising. Technologies, however, change. So the early pottery is made with hand-built forms, even though the painted designs, the fish scale, are styles that continue from the Ravi phase to the Kotdiji phase, and then eventually to the Harappa phase. During the Kotdiji phase, we see the introduction of wheel-thrown pottery. It starts at the late part of the Ravi, around 1B, but in period 2, most of the pottery is wheel-thrown. We also see changes in the shapes of cooking vessels between the Ravi phase, which are hand-built vessels with a flat bottom, applique of slurry on the outside, to Harappan ones which were wheel-made, and then rounded bases, and then slurry on the exterior as well, with the ridge and the flaring rims. We see at Harappa very distinctive changes in painting style between the Kotdijian and the Harappan period. So the motifs are the same, but the thickness of the brush is different, and this can be compared to the thin painting style found on pottery from Baluchistan. This is from a site called Lal Shah near Mehergarh, and made with a different kind of clay. Between 3A and 3B, we also see changes in painting styles. So the 3A vessel from Lahoma Lal Tibba, excavated by Rita Wright and Afzal Khan, shows a very large motif spread across a big area. The painting style from the Chanudara vessel is much more congested, and shows a very unique development of painting styles during the Harappa period itself. Pointed base goblets. These are the diagnostic of Harappa period 3, B, and C, but we can see that this form actually started during 3A. And it started as a flat base vessel with grooves on the exterior, and then eventually the pointed base emerges. And the pointed base is found in both Mohenjo-daro and Harappa and some of the other large sites. The transition during the Late Harappan, we can see pottery that is similar to Harappan forms, but slightly different bases, and the new forms such as the cages used for birds. But there are many continuities in shapes such as the dish on stand and large dishes that continue on. So this is period 4 transition leading up to period 5, which are the cemetery H burial vessels, which are very distinctive, though they're made from the same clays that are found at Harappa. And here we start seeing new base shapes, new rim shapes, but dish on stands, large storage vessels show some continuity with the earlier Harappan period. One unique change is the development of paddle and anvil technique. So this is a large cooking vessel from the cemetery H period, starting in period 4 and also continuing into 5. And this has a honeycomb impression of sandy slip on the outside that's fired onto the pot. But we have clay slurry applied outside, which was used to protect the vessel during cooking. So this is an example of the first use of the paddle and anvil technique. So there's a whole range of changes going on, but some of the materials are staying the same. Moving lastly to seals. The earliest geometric seals at Harappa are button seals, and this one is made from bone. We have similar seals found from Mehergarh, and the date to about the same time period, and they're all geometric, made of bone or clay. It's during period 2 that we start seeing the use of steatite, which is shaped into seals, geometric forms that are glazed with a blue-green glaze. And we have unfinished seals showing that these things were being made at Harappa. At least this one was, and probably this one as well. I'm not sure where this one is made because we have similar styles throughout northern Punjab and into Haryana. At Harappa, we have an unfinished seal with the earliest evidence for an elephant facing to the left, which is a unique design, and an impression of a seal with writing on it. We don't have the seal, but we have the impression. During the Harappa phase, animals are starting to face to the right, so changing the direction. This is found at Harappa as well as many sites in Haryana. And Wattuwal seal, the spelling is wrong, Wattuwal, from Cholistan, which is an important discovery by Dr. Farzan Masih. During 3B, we start seeing animals facing to the left again, with script reaching up over the head, distinctive bosses, continuing use of geometric seals, and then during 3C we have seals with long inscriptions across the entire top of the seal, as well as seals with no animal motif at all. The technique of using just writing actually starts in 3B, this is an early 3B seal with just writing, but the long seals with writing only found in 3C. And finally, during the Harappa phase, the last phase, we start seeing geometric seals come back and animal motifs disappearing. And I would just throw in this slide showing found by Vats, a unicorn seal which might have been made with a different style of carving from Baluchistan, perhaps a kuli, but still with the writing style of the 3B motif. So in summary, all diagnostic technologies associated with Indus tradition demonstrate various degrees of change. This is change in production technology, raw materials, usage, shape, form, and decorative motifs. There are distinctive continuities, and I don't have time to review them again, but I've talked about them throughout this presentation. And I argue that this shows local indigenous processes of development rather than a lot of outside influence during each of these transitions. And I would conclude by saying that the diversity of technologies and the hierarchy of the use of materials confirm the important role of the finished artifacts in defining socioeconomic and ideological hierarchies within these cities. Thank you very much.